With smash hit after smash hit and a seemingly permanent place on the charts worldwide, there's just no escaping the juggernaut of music that is The Weeknd. While today he's a 4-time Grammy Award winner, the recipient of 22 Juno Awards and 20 Billboard Music Awards, things weren't always so good for the blinding lights singer. From dropping out of high school to homelessness and drug addiction, The Weeknd's road to success was nothing short of a wild ride. Coming from the 6th, Abel Makonnen Tesfaye was born in Toronto, Canada on February 16, 1990. The only child of Ethiopian immigrants, his parents separated shortly after his birth. This meant Abel was brought up predominantly by his mother and grandmother in the Scarborough district of Ontario. Despite not being close to his dad, the pop singer says he holds no grudges towards his absent father, telling Rolling Stone in 2015 that, "I saw him vaguely when I was 6, and then again when I was 11 or 12, and he had a new family and kids. I don't even know where he lived. I'd see him for like a night. I'm sure he's a great guy. I never judged him. He wasn't abusive, he wasn't alcoholic, he wasn't an asshole. He just wasn't there." But living with his grandma proved to have its advantages, as the young Abel was taught to speak Amharic, a language native to Ethiopia, making him trilingual later in life. He became fluent in French after attending a French immersion school, and of course, he's shown a pretty solid grasp for English in his songwriting. As a kid, Abel attended Samuel Hearn Middle School before graduating on to Birchmount Park Collegiate Institute. Abel got his first taste for music by attending his grandmother's Ethiopian Orthodox Church and participating in choir. But the protection of his mother and grandmother, alongside the influence of the church, wasn't enough to stop Abel getting a taste for a very different lifestyle. He admitted to smoking weed for the first time when he was only 11 and would frequently use drugs while in high school. This would kick off a destructive relationship with drugs that would take years for the pop star to fully overcome. The future Starboy singer would never complete his education, and after being kicked out of his high school and made to go to a much tougher one on the other side of town, he chose to drop out at 17 years old to pursue his music career more seriously. Alongside 2 of his friends, Abel moved to the Parkdale neighborhood of Toronto and lived in an apartment dubbed the House of Balloons, a name that would later inspire his debut mixtape. Abel describes this period of his life as being like the 1995 film Kids, just without the AIDS. 3 young high school dropouts living together soon turned into a hedonistic and no-holds-barred lifestyle that was only going to cause problems. The I Can't Feel My Face singer admitted that he would often use drugs like ketamine, cocaine, MDMA, magic mushrooms, and cough syrup to help him write songs. Around this time, Abel also experienced homelessness, opening up to The Hollywood Reporter only recently about the darkest time of my life. After getting evicted, Abel resorted to bed hopping between friends' places and telling women he loved them just so he'd have a place to stay. Yikes. Abel recalls that the experience of being a 19-year-old in a new city with no money and a dream had a weirdly freeing feeling to it. The struggle, there was something magical about it. While he's able to look back positively on it now, things certainly weren't like this in the moment. The young musician recalled a period in his life where he was unsure he would ever make it as a musician. "I didn't know if I was going to be able to live to see tomorrow. Just think, a world where The Weeknd doesn't exist. You can't imagine it. Now what if I told you we have award-winning director James Cameron and a bunch of big blue aliens to thank for today's modern pop music landscape?" Well, the Canadian singer credits the 2009 film Avatar as being one of his biggest inspirations at the time to keep going. "It was such an escape from my real life that the film is tattooed on my brain," he told The Hollywood Reporter. Big blue aliens aside, Abel still had to hustle to get his music out, and it was after a few minor stints in jail that he really decided to smarten up and focus on his music full time. He teamed up with his best friend, Lamar Taylor, and the two set off to conquer the world, or the pop music charts, whichever comes first. '09 would prove to be a great year for Abel as he began making his musical dreams come true. After anonymously releasing music to YouTube, he met music producer Jeremy Rose, who had been trying to get his own dark R&B project off the ground. Rose played one of his instrumentals for Abel, who freestyled over the beat. Impressed, the pair went on to collaborate on a number of projects together, such as What You Need, Loft Music, and The Party and the After Party. Rose let Abel keep the tracks under one condition. He would credit Rose should Abel choose to release them. In December 2010, Abel released What You Need, Loft Music, and another track the pair had worked on, The Morning, to YouTube under the username XO, XXX, XOXO, XO. While he kept his identity a secret, the songs began to gain some attention online, even being included on a blog post from Toronto rapper Drake. Various media outlets also wrote pieces praising the tracks, including the New York Times and Pitchfork. And with that, The Weeknd was born. Abel says he chose his stage name as a tribute to when he dropped out of school, taking his mattress one weekend and never came back home. Abel chose to misspell the name in an effort to avoid any legal issues with the punk rock band, The Weeknd, choosing to take out an E instead of having to deal with lengthy and expensive trademark battles in court. During his early days as The Weeknd, Abel worked at an American Apparel in the city, and because of his anonymity, many of his co-workers listened to his music without knowing they were clocking in with the artist by their side. 2011 rolled around and Abel was about to experience his first big break in the music industry. After meeting with music execs Sal and Cash, Abel started his own record label, XO. In March of that same year, The Weeknd released his debut mixtape, House of Balloons. The mixtape was named as one of the 10 shortlisted nominees of the 2011 Polaris Music Prize. A hustler through and through, Abel didn't wait too long between projects and dropped his next mixtape, Thursday, which garnered generally positive reviews from critics and fans alike. Before the year finished, Abel gave his fans even more music with the release of Echoes of Silence, his third release of the year. The mixtape was a long-listed nominee for the 2012 Polaris Music Prize. 2011 would also prove to be the year Abel made himself some powerful industry friends. In July, The Weeknd held his first ever live show at the Ma Club Theater in Toronto, where the Sixth God himself was in attendance. Realizing he'd just seen something special, Drake wanted to meet the Ethiopian songsmith to discuss a collaboration. As a result of their meeting, Abel earned himself an appearance at the OVO Fest, as well as songwriter, producer, and featured artist credits on Drake's second studio album, Take Care. It's hard to believe it looking at The Weeknd's incredible success of today, but the Trilogy artist originally believed that his best shot in the music industry was to write for other singers. In 2013, Abel worked on Sia's Hunger Games track Elastic Heart alongside Diplo. A year later, the Toronto singer would appear on Ariana Grande's Love Me Harder, the fourth single from her second studio album. Lucky for us, however, it wouldn't be long before the I Can't Feel My Face singer gained enough confidence and inspiration to strike out on his own and get to work on his own projects more seriously. Throughout all of this, Abel, or The Weeknd as everyone knew him by, was something of an industry enigma. Sure, he'd been on hit songs and chart toppers with everyone from Sixth God Drake to Nickelodeon alumni Ariana Grande, but fans and journalists alike knew very little about the Canadian singer. Abel had something of a shy and reserved personality, meaning he rarely did interviews, and if he did, they were short, mysterious, and to the point, preferring instead to communicate with fans through his Twitter. He later admitted that his reluctance to be interviewed came from having nothing to say. Fans of The Weeknd would have to wait until 2013 for his first ever interview. As he later explained, he preferred to let his music do the talking. Back on the grind, and Abel would continue to grow his exposure and fan base by performing at several universities in Ontario. After he'd firmly planted himself into the Toronto music scene, there was only one thing left to do: an international tour. For a first international tour, Abel was setting the bar high. He would perform at Coachella, gave a sold-out show at the Bowery Ballroom in New York City, and appeared at a number of European music festivals like Wireless in the UK and Primavera Sound in Spain and Portugal. He would then tour with Florence and the Machine, opening for the band in 5 cities. In November of 2012, The Weeknd released Trilogy, his compilation album filled with remixes and remasterings of old songs from his previous mixtapes. The album was a smash hit, debuting at number 4 on the US Billboard 200 and sold 86,000 copies. The album would go on to become certified platinum in the US and double platinum in Canada, while also winning Abel a nomination for the Sound of 2013 poll by the BBC. The rest, as they say, is history. After the release of Trilogy, Abel had transitioned firmly from an artist trying to make it to a fully certified award-winning pop star. What's more amazing was how he was able to achieve all of this without an official studio album, something Abel would fix in September of 2013. Kissland would debut at number 2 in the Billboard 200 and sell 96,000 copies in its first week. After opening for Justin Timberlake's The 2020 Experience World Tour that same year and contributing to the Hunger Games soundtrack, Abel had become almost too big to fail. Not bad for a kid who couldn't even finish high school. So what do you think is next for the singer? Has he done all there is to do in pop music? Or are there still mountains to climb? Or has Abel conquered them all? Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more true celebrity stories.